A very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to Vogan's European Outlook for Friday, the 28th of January. And remember what has been said for the last several videos now. The warming taking place in the stratosphere between Siberia and across towards North America has been continuing to keep a cross-polar flow going, feeding the coldest air out of Siberia and into North America. And as a result of this continuous southward push of polar air down into the North American continent, we're now starting to see the development of storminess along the eastern seaboard, and we have got the biggest snow event for the northeastern half of the United States in a few years now. In fact, it could be close to record breaking across New England when all is said and done. But you can see as the cold air kind of feeds down from the Great Lakes region, we've got an area of low pressure that develops here off the eastern seaboard. You can see that here on the chart here. And as that system parallels the east coast, we'll start to see the wraparound in moisture meeting the cold air on the coast, and heavy rain and snowfall in particular will break out anywhere from DC, the Delmarva Peninsula, up through New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, southern New York, into Rhode Island, and it's really the area between eastern Rhode Island through Connecticut and eastern Massachusetts that we could see, a blizzard, completely whiteout conditions, heavy snowfall for a period of several hours, bringing transport to a halt. And this system will continue to deepen off the east coast and drive potentially hurricane force winds up through Boston and into the lower portion of Maine. All the while, we've got Arctic air driving all the way down into South Florida, probably the coldest air in several years for places such as Miami, where we may see temperatures actually drop into mid-single figures in terms of Celsius, which is upper 30s to around 40 Fahrenheit. So very, very interesting indeed. And we'll have a closer look at the eastern seaboard, the northeast, and you can see here as the system really ramps up. It makes sense if I get to the right chart. As you can see here, the system lifts northwards. Very heavy snowfall through the I-95 corridor. Of course, many millions of people that live in this corridor of the lower 48, of course, and the system really winds up as it moves up towards southern portions of Nova Scotia, and of course the Arctic air comes in on the backside here. Snowfall projections, according to the Weather Channel here, it looks as if we're going to see upwards of maybe about a half foot in Philadelphia, close to a foot in New York City, and then of course as we got up towards Boston here, we could see close to 2 feet of snow. But of course winds going to be a massive issue as well. But look at this here. These are the totals here of the Weather Channel here, and it's printing out 22 inches of snow in the city of Boston here, where we've got blizzard warnings in place here. And looking at the 850 temperature profile here, we've got the first wave of cold air that kind of meets this system as it rides up the east coast here. You can see here very cold air, centered generally over the Great Lakes here, but it's the cold air has reached the coast, and of course with this, the development of this powerful system, we've got all the ingredients in place for a major snow event here. And as you can see here, as I play it through the loop, you can see here the very cold air reaches all the way down to the Florida Keys. But it's interesting here because of course the cross-polar flow continues to move air essentially from Asia across the top into North America, and we're still seeing these punches of lobes of Arctic air dropping into the lower 48 pattern. So the first of the latest series of polar air masses comes down, meets the system, of course, and we've got all the heavy snowfall to speak about. But it's not all said and done, because it looks as if by the time we reach the early and middle portion of next week, we've got another push of even colder air that comes down into the pattern here, runs into the plains, and then it reaches the northeastern portion of the country here by the time we reach the end of next week here. So It may moderate somewhat in the northeastern portion of the country once this system exits, but we've got more Arctic outbreaks to speak about as we go forward here. And this all ties in very well with the overall emphasis. Warmer across the Caribbean, colder it comes down to meet that. We tighten the jet stream, and of course, as that runs across the North Atlantic, it does several things. We're seeing, in a sense, the northwestern portion of Europe get the colder pushed out, and especially across the UK and Ireland here. And the next issue that we have, if you will, is the fact that we've got the area of high pressure that continues to hold its ground just close to the Azores here. But as we play through this loop, it's going to be interesting to see here. We've got a pretty stormy spell coming in during the course of tomorrow. You can see here as we skip through the sequence here, we've got a real squeeze in the isobars. We've got a very big pressure gradient, if you notice here, between nearly 1040 millibars just to the south of Ireland, but yet we've got an area of low pressure, yes, well north of the British Isles, but still we've got that squeeze in the isobars, 969 millibar low just off the Norwegian coast, and in between that we've got winds that is likely to exceed 80 miles an hour in some parts of the Outer Hebrides, the northwestern portion of Scotland, through the Northern Isles as well. That feature then pushes through, becomes a very big snow and wind maker over Scandinavia and over a large swathe of Europe. If you notice here, a lot of isobars on the chart here covering a large area, and we could see some very powerful winds on the backside of that system that, of course, impacts the UK tomorrow, but then has a massive impact on Europe during the latter portion of tomorrow evening and into Sunday. Then we've got another system, very small, notice that, develops very quickly, and that becomes our next gale on Sunday and into Monday. We could see again winds in excess of 80 miles an hour across the north. We're also got a little bit colder air associated with this area of low pressure, and that is going to bring some potentially significant mountain snow across the UK. All the while, as we see these two systems here moving in and out aboard a very powerful jet stream, we've got the very system that's impacting the northeastern half of the country of the US through the weekend. That system then kind of pushes north up towards Greenland. But what is going to be interesting is the amount of cold air that system allows to cross the Atlantic. And what that may start to do is it may start to help force the jet stream a little bit further south, get the UK into the colder air mass, and therefore we may see more in the way of snowfall potential towards the end of next week. And as I play it through the loop, you can see what's taking place. The area of high pressure kind of gets shunted slightly further southwest. And what that does is it opens the door to colder air crossing the Atlantic from North America towards the British Isles here. And we've got more ingredients coming together for a messy picture towards the end of next week and into next weekend. It looks as if we've got multiple areas of low pressure that may compete with each other or may converge to make a more powerful system. But it's interesting to see how the area of low pressure seen by the model kind of spawns new centres, and what it's doing is it's allowing colder air, more polar origin air, to come down from the north here. Notice the position of the area of high pressure way out over the North Atlantic. We've not seen that in a while, and we've got a larger surface area of northwesterly winds, possibly coming from Greenland, if not coming to the Arctic, with this type of scenario. And look at the centre of low pressure between Scotland and Norway, 958 millibars. So we could see gale force winds, severe gales likely. With this scenario, of course, we're going to see changes take place, folks, with regards to the overall outlook. But it's interesting to watch the step-by-step scenario as we go through this weekend. That may set up a very interesting next weekend in terms of weather, and that certainly would be very stormy indeed, much colder, with the potential for snow in not just high ground parts of Scotland here, but certainly a very stormy pattern looks to be developing here as we go forward. And you can see here as I continue to play through the loop, we've got a scenario of direct northerly winds coming into at least Scotland. Notice an area of low pressure on the south coast of England as well. Something worth paying attention to as well. But yes, still very powerful jet stream going to influence the British weather pattern as we go through the foreseeable future. But it looks as if we're going to get colder air becoming entrained within that jet stream with the developments taking place. Like I say, skip right back to the evolution of the pattern. Colder transport from Siberia over top of the pole into North America. Waves of cold coming down into the eastern portion of North America, merging with warmer air over the Caribbean. That then, of course, sets the stage for a stronger jet stream crossing the Atlantic. We get stronger storm systems coming into the British Isles as a result of that, but also with each push of cold air that comes down out of Canada into the eastern portion of North America, we then increase the cold available air that crosses the Atlantic and potentially impacts the British Isles as we go forward here. Of course, like I say, one model run, but it looks as if it's becoming a lot more interesting as we go further down the road here. And finally, let's have a look at 850 millibar temperatures here, because this is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of very interesting evolution of pattern. Milder over the next several days here across the British Isles. Then when the first system comes through, we've got cold air coming down from the north here. Second system comes in during Sunday. That too opens the door to colder air coming in to the pattern. But then as we press through next week, much colder air coming off North America, becoming entrained within the upper air pattern crossing the Atlantic. And this is what I'm talking about here. Much colder air in a greater area affecting the British Isles towards the end of next week and into next weekend. So very interesting weather developing through the first week of February, that's for sure. Keep it right here on markvoganweather.com on YouTube. Of course, if you like the video, please like, share and subscribe, and keep up to date with the very latest videos as they come through. Hoping to have a video day by day now as the pattern becomes more interesting. Of course, I'm back to work tomorrow as well, so it's all systems go once again. Of course, click the bell for notifications of each video that I produce. Hope you have a great weekend ahead. I'll be back again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.